Well, good afternoon. So because it's being recorded, I know all of you know me, but I'll give a quick intro. So I am Regina Tureman, and I am the regional representative for American Express Global Commercial Services here in Hampton Roads. So I partner with companies, many of you here on this phone are on the line today, helping you pay suppliers, and we're also going to talk about getting paid by suppliers quicker and some strategies around that. So I've been with Amex for over 5 years, primarily focused on our small and medium enterprise businesses. So we consider those folks to be 1 million to 300 million, which obviously is a big swath of clients. And so I'm working with EO members, and I've been in SAP for about 4 years, and I've very much enjoyed this relationship. So just to kind of kick us off, I had asked Christina earlier about who was attending because, I know this is not meant to be a sales pitch or a monologue about what American Express has to offer, but, some of this is going to have the flavor of American Express because these are solutions that we are utilizing with our clients today, but this really can be applied to any credit card product. I know that I wish I could tell you I know a lot about what our competitors do in this space, but I don't. But I do know that we are all, offering some version of automation within the payments. So we've had really an initiative in place since 2016 called Winning Through the Cycle at American Express. And so I thought that, we didn't know a pandemic was coming in 2016. We thought that some type of, retraction in the economy would occur. I don't think any of us, and if we had foreseen it, we'd probably all be a lot richer, right? So I want to talk with you about how you can employ some, innovative actions that you can take within your business to help you get paid sooner by your own customers and obviously hang on to your cash a little longer. So moving along to our agenda, so I want to talk about what accounts payable and accounts receivable automation is, some of the benefits. I think it's also important to kind of level set and talk about traditionally what companies do today. And then I will talk about, some of the resources that you can deploy internally today to make some of this happen. I want to talk about the different types of automation, and then help you with create a roadmap to make some of this a reality. And then obviously we will save some time for Q&A. I know everyone's on mute, but if there's any questions or anything you want me to address, feel free to raise your hand or wave or unmute yourself. Okay, I'm going to take that silence as we're good to go. So, first off, what is AP automation, or what is, automation within the accounting space? So, and this kind of says it all, going from, invoice payments to invoices paid. So, a lot of these systems, whether you're, making changes internally on your own, or you're using a provider, whether it's Cap One or SunTrust or American Express, a lot of these systems have the ability for you to keep your current ERP or financial system, which many folks in the small and medium businesses are all using QuickBooks, but it's almost like online bill pay. So, you're able to review and select invoices that you want to pay, route them through your current approval workflow. And the automation side of this is creating virtual card numbers that can only be used by a specific vendor one time for a specific amount for a specific time period. And let me pause and say that you also can use cards multiple times. So, for example, let's say that you do Facebook advertising and you want to assign a card number to a specific campaign or a specific client, or if I think about somebody like Eric or somebody like Dennis that may have specific client expenses. then you could issue a virtual card, so it's not actually a hard plastic card, but every single one of those transactions is tied to that specific customer of yours for you to be able to bill that back in a clean way. Moving on. So, what are the benefits that you can obviously, get from automation? And I've just pulled up some studies here. So, what people are saying that have already automated, 92% of businesses today are talking about the fact that operational efficiency is a top priority. There's a great, digital shift happening in this space. There's a particular urgency around automation because so many of the firms today are adopting some amount of work from home existence, and there's really no ability to conduct back office operations on premise, things like writing checks, signing checks, receiving checks, from your own suppliers. So in this, current economic climate, there's a lot of value in automating. So, able to cut costs 75%, and then, firms are saying that they're able to save more than 65 hours per month through automation and efficiency that are delivered through these solutions. So let's talk about what the process today, so we've been doing accounts payable automation for a long time in various, in various capacities with different sized businesses. It's been in our global enterprise for a long time. So you think about the Coca-Colas, the IBMs, the Facebooks, et cetera. They're not using a hard plastic card for any of their AP spend. It's all being done on some type of virtual or tokenization. And what I mean by that is you're sending that card number, to a supplier with the remittance details attached. And many suppliers can have systems internally just to read all of that directly from that email, that secure email payment that's coming over to them. So there's been great advances in AP automation, and now accounts receivable automation is really picking up steam. There is another study, which I didn't include in this, but the virtual tokenization payment is a $5 trillion opportunity within U.S. middle market today. So, your process today, obviously, when you're paying vendors, you receive an invoice, you code it into the system, it gets routed around for approval, and then you're selecting whatever payment type it is. Maybe it's American Express, maybe it's a check, ACH, wire, and then you're reconciling the bank statements and your card statements, et cetera, at the end of the month, which all of you know if you've done this. And I know Eric for certain, reconciliation can be a real issue. When you're paying a lot of vendors by card. So that's kind of what the process looks like today. Traditional check process, obviously to pay a vendor, you have to enter that vendor, and this is a good place to kind of level set. So I've talked about kind of the traditional accounts payable process. There are two ways to use card. There is point of sale transactions, and that's the card you carry in your wallet that you go out and use for meals and entertainment, and it could be someone needs to buy something and they come to your office and get a card, or you're purchasing some type of software online, or you're using the card at the time of the purchase. So that's point of sale. The other way to use a card is what's called invoice-driven spend. So invoices come into your accounting system, they get keyed in, and that's really what this is saying. So you set up a vendor in your accounting system. Those invoices come in. You match the invoice to the PO. You're doing a three-way match. And then you're selecting those, once those invoices have been approved, you're selecting those invoices to be paid. And then typically what you would do is you would mail a check out to your vendor at the end of the month. You compare your bank statement, to the accounting system, make sure that it all matches, and then you close out and make those reconciliation, make those journal entries for the month. So what happens when you're paying by card, the only part of this journey that should change is the disbursement of the payment. So, today if you, weren't using automation, one of the things that that we do is we create like a dummy check or like a Amex check, and you could do the same regardless of your card type. I don't want to talk too much about following the money, but the biggest, obstacle to progress, hands down, within the accounting function, is Betty in accounting. It's status quo. We've always written checks, and now if I have to pay by card, I've got to create these, additional steps. Or how a lot of people are doing card payments today is they just wait until the bill comes in, and then they put it into their accounting system. And when you do that, if you're not setting up your card payment, whether it's, a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, if you're not setting up that card payment as a bank account or a payment type, you're always going to show the vendor to be the card company, because that's who you're actually writing the check to. So this creates, and I think back to another EO event I went to, a speaker series like last year, and I don't know if y'all remember, if y'all were there when the guy talked about accounting hygiene. This is one of the things that he was talking about, is that, making sure that you're accounting for, card payments. So I just did an example, of a T account. You get into, let's say this is from Ferguson Enterprises. You get a $100 invoice from American Express. From Ferguson. You obviously, debit you debit your materials expense, credit the liability account, and then obviously, so you're accruing that invoice in your system. And then when you go to pay by check, you debit the liability account to zero that out, and you then credit your cash account when that check is made. So I only include this if you ever had to sit with your accounting person and you're getting any pushback on, on paying by card, if that's what makes sense for your business, because you're, generating a rebate and generating float within your, within your cash flow. This is a way to sit and talk with an accounting person. 100% of accounting people will get these T accounts. When you're paying with, and again, I'm saying American Express, but it could be any type of card, you have to set up a bank account for that card product. So you're adding an Amex bank. If you're on QuickBooks, credit card accounts are an option within QuickBooks, but I don't know what type of every accounting system that everyone's using. The only you would still enter in your invoice and debit materials, credit the accounts payable, because Amex has paid that on your behalf. When you and then you're then going to move that to the Amex bank account. Then obviously at the end of the month, you're doing one large transaction back to American Express to zero all those accounts out and reconcile it. Are there any questions about that? Okay, and I don't want to get into the weeds on it, but again, if this weren't American Express and it were something else, this still remains the same. So people have been they've been using card. I've got clients that are doing a dummy check process to the tune of $7-8 million a year, paying 40 vendors every month by card, and they're using credit card authorization forms. So they're keying everything into QuickBooks. And if you remember back when I said on that first screen, the only thing that changes when you're paying by card is the disbursement. So they literally will put blank paper, not their check stock, into their printer and print out a card payment check. And then somebody will call the vendor and give them that card number to make the payment. Maybe they go online to a portal. Maybe they literally scan and email this remittance to a supplier. So this is a manual way to do it, but it is a way for you to maintain your accounting principles of making sure that you're accounting for the spend correctly. So this is kind of the manual, older way that people have done this. And then I want to talk about what is AP automation? What is it doing for businesses today? So there's two types of AP automation. There's one where it is a file-based, and it works with 100% of accounting softwares. You create a payment file, almost like what you're doing with your bank today. If you're doing positive pay with your bank, you create a single payment file, you upload that to whoever your provider is, and they make those payments for you, and then they generate back a remittance, a payment remittance or payment advice file where it comes back to you, and you can upload that into your accounting system to mark those journal entries as paid, zeroing out whatever your card or clearinghouse account is. And then so that's one type of automation, which is file-based. The second type of automation is integrated within your accounting system. So some of the larger ones that have integrations are QuickBooks, Sage Intacct, NetSuite, Great Plains, Computer Ease, and this is with a few clicks you're able to to send payments directly from your accounting system. The other thing, so obviously there are hundreds of technology providers that provide this. Sage Intacct has one that's built in. QuickBooks has one that's also built in that is card agnostic, meaning that you could possibly put any card in there that you wanted to if you weren't an American Express customer. So I would just encourage you to, if you're not an Amex customer and you have a card with another provider, I'd first start with your technology, with your software company that has your accounting software and see what they have to offer. You also can just Google accounts payable automation. So that really covers the two types of accounts payable automation. And so now I'm going to kind of bring in the AR side of this, which is the accounts receivable side. So really streamlining how you pay your suppliers and how your suppliers pay you with automation. So in terms of cash flow, the benefits are, allowing you to pay by card, and being paid by card allows you obviously more flexibility with your working capital. Efficiency, reducing the time to process incoming invoices, as well as you're able to to push invoices out to your suppliers really virtually from anywhere. You don't have to be in your office hooked up to a VPN. All of these are web-based solutions. Fraud protection. I'm not sure how many of you have fraud on your bank account. I've talked to two people today, two clients that have had fraud on their bank account, and that's where they're mailing out checks. Somehow the routing number and account number is getting caught up somewhere, and they're having fraud. I wish I could say that I get those calls on the card side. So this isn't really a selling point, in my opinion, at American Express. We, thank goodness, have a very low fraud. But because the account numbers are virtual, it keeps the card from, it really prevents the card from being used fraudulently. And then more importantly, if you're still writing a lot of checks, moving to an ACH, mailing a check obviously gives you that time in the mail before that check is cashed by your supplier. But it also, you could do the same with an ACH and just wait until that day that you would normally pay it anyway. Gives you more control. You're not waiting for when the mail is received. And so, maybe you could push your payments out a little later, based on when you really have to have that payment made. On the accounts receivable side, how many of us have heard, from our, customers that the check's in the mail? So giving your customers the ability to pay you by card, which that money gets overnighted into your account. Obviously, there's a fee for that, but allowing them to process an ACH to you is also more of a real-time payment. And then the kind of bottom right-hand bucket here, rewards. Obviously, you're not going to get a reward on an ACH or a check payment, but obviously, when you're using your card to pay suppliers, you're generating a reward back to yourself. And then what does accounts receivable automation do for you? Again, kind of eliminating that back office process of accounts receivable. If you're able to digitize invoices to your clients, obviously you're saving on the printing and mailing of those invoices. What if you have to send another invoice out? That's additional postage, late notices, et cetera. Doing all of that digitally, eliminates the cost. And then obviously receiving, checks in, if you're, asking your clients to ACH you, that prevents somebody from having to be in the office or go to a PO box, open it, deposit it, and so forth. So, making it easy and secure for your customers to pay with digital invoicing is just going to help you get paid quicker. So if you can offer a pay now button on your invoicing where they can go in and pay by card. Actually have a pretty big example locally of this. SL Nussbaum is now accepting rent payments via card. So they're digitally invoicing. This is brand new. I got a call last week from a client who said, hey, I'm going to start putting my rent payment to SL Nussbaum. And I said, can I see a copy of that invoice? He was like, sure. So they've got a pay now button right there where, they can send that to their customer. When you're in, paper, when you're sending a paper invoice, right, it's got to be routed through, someone's got to approve it. Obviously, if you're making it easier for people to pay right away, you're likely to get paid sooner versus a manual approval and reconciliation process that they may have internally. And this is really talking about accepting card payments, this last bullet point, from your customers. Like many of us, if you just think about not only our customers, if you think about your own situation, you likely may be trying to push out some of your payments to your own suppliers. And I think that you probably should also think about the fact that your customers are trying to push out their own payments for the same reason, to manage cash flow because of the environment that we're in. So, accepting card really allows you to shift, versus you offering, payment plans and credit terms. It allows you to shift the risk of, you don't have to become the financial institution for your customer. You can shift that, obviously, to a card, Visa, MasterCard, let the financial institutions, take on that risk with you getting paid right away. So,
hey,
if
Regina?
you're not, yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. On that last point on the previous slide, so are you suggesting that, how would we say that it extends the credit terms? Would it be like, let's say we want to be paid in 30 days, so we offer net 30 terms. Would we be telling our clients, and is the point here, we could tell our clients, hey, pay on your credit card right away, right when the invoice comes, and you'll still get 30 days to pay?
Right. I mean, they know that. I don't know you have to even, go that far. But I do have something on the other slide that says, how do you implement this plan? So I'm going to move on, and I am going to talk about that.
Cool.
So if you're not ready to automate and you just want to start getting paid sooner, and this is going to answer that for you. Cash flow concerns obviously are affecting all of us. None of us are immune from that. So so I said really just kind of empathizing with the position of your client, that that everyone is probably battling some version of this. So being able to offer your clients some payment terms now, offering things like installment plans, temporary plans. For them to make payment, or offering a discount for immediate payment. Obviously, if you want to do some type of digital invoicing, I'm happy to talk with you about the different resources that I know of for that. But yeah, you could just put on there, net 30. But if you want to pay by card. And I don't know that it has to be right now, because they're probably still, it all depends on the customer, which is why I was saying, call them. If they're any of your larger customers versus just emailing it on a statement, maybe having a conversation with them saying, hey, listen, I probably get that you're trying to hang on to your, to your cash maybe a little longer. And so we have, adopted this new approach and really make it about the fact that, everyone's doing some type of work from home, right? But there may still be an approval process. Why I think it's important to understand your customer's situation. Maybe they need 5 days. Maybe it can't be, right away because someone still has to approve it, which is why, there is a policy. If you look at like SL Nussbaum, they've just taken a blanket policy and they've said, hey, this is how we want to be paid. You can do, ACH or card, and these are the options. But I think that, it doesn't have to be a blanket approach. You can just go to your best customers, which is why I'm saying if you don't have time to call everybody, focus on the larger ones first. You can also, you can accept from, card acceptance is it's subjective. You can accept from, like Eric, you could say I'm going to accept from Dennis, but I'm not going to accept from Owen for whatever reason. The margins are too thin on Owen, but I've got more room within Dennis's contract with us to make this work. So, but these are all things, like I said, that you could do on your own. If anybody needs any, like if you're not accepting card payments today and you want to get set up to accept card, so we process our own cards. So this is what's unique to American Express. So we are a merchant acquirer and we're also a card issuer. So so we can walk those situations one-off to a supplier on your behalf. And the other way around. There are lots of companies that will do what, basically as a supplier endorsement, where Eric, you would say, hey, here are 10 customers of mine that I'd like to begin paying by card. American Express would partner with you in letting those customers know, hey, you've been writing checks or whatever to Eric. He's now willing to accept card, and these are his terms. So this is something that only American Express can do because we own the relationship on both sides with our cardholder. But with Visa and MasterCard, obviously you all could do that yourself. You could say, okay, I've identified with Amex, these are their clients, they'll handle these, but these other people, maybe they don't have an American Express relationship, and my person in accounting, or I'm going to call them and say, hey, you're writing checks and we've got day 30 terms. If you have a card solution and would be interested in paying sooner, we would accept that card on, day 10 or whatever. If anyone needs a resource for getting set up to accept card, I do have a company, they actually do the processing for Town Bank. It's called Card Connect. Card Connect has one of their national reps here locally. And so they can set up Visa, MasterCard. You want to work with a direct processor, and Card Connect is a direct processor. There are more, and I can send you a slide of all the direct processors. But when you're using a middleman, something gets added on to that, right? If you're using Town or, it doesn't really matter who, they're going to add a little bit onto that. Amex is a direct processor, so if you want to process cards directly with American Express, the fee is going to be less. It's typically half a point. So let's say that the fee is $2.89 to accept American Express. If you're using a third party, what we call OptBlue, to accept American Express, they're probably adding 50 basis points to that. So instead of the fee being $2.89, you're talking about 3.39. And then another thing that American Express does, only in the B2B world, meaning business-to-business transactions, is we lower the price the higher the charge. So anything over $10,000 gets a break of 50 basis points. Maybe over $50,000, it's 80 basis points. There's also a high rock, what we call record of charge, if you're over 250. And I don't want to get into the weeds, but there are benefits to processing directly with American Express on the fee side. But some people they want to do what's easy, and they just want to use, they want to do it through QuickBooks or whatever. And there's a blended rate, so that's the same thing with like Square. I think Square is like 3.25% for all transactions, but you're paying a convenience fee for that in that scenario. Any questions about that before I move on? Okay. So supplier onboarding. So this is another important, part of the process. So whether you're doing your own supplier onboarding, within your own company, for however it is you want to pay people, what does that look like? So, and I've got it on the next slide. I have a sample letter, but one, you need to notify your vendors that you want to now begin paying them by card. So telling them that they're or by ACH or however it is you're going to pay them. So what we do at American Express is we actually take this on ourselves because we have that one-to-one direct relationship with the merchant and with the business card holder. So we get a list of suppliers from our card clients. When they've decided to go with an accounting automation tool, we get a list of those suppliers, reach out to those suppliers, let them know that they're going to be getting paid check, card, or ACH because we can handle all three types of payments. And then, we let them know, we explain what the token is, how they're going to get it, a sample of it. So, but if you decide, obviously the communication piece, whether it's you want to accept card or you want to pay by card, and regardless whether it's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, communicating that. And I'll share with you, what our process is. So I took kind of a sample letter that we send out your suppliers, and really this would come from you, but we just kind of have this template that just says, as we reflect on the past weeks, you may want to, we can probably change that to the past months, right? Or we reflect on this past year, the changes we've gone through. We continue to look for ways to support you, our supplier, during this difficult time. We want to help, we want to keep moving business, business to keep moving, but, safety is a top priority. And, we're going to start paying our suppliers via card or via ACH or what have you. So anybody that wants a copy of this letter, I'm happy to, this is a PDF version, but I wanted y'all to see that, this is something that you would want to do with your suppliers. So, and kind of the roadmap, so, assemble a list of your suppliers, figure out, who they are, how much you're paying them, talk with your card provider, your CPA, your bookkeeper, whoever, and decide which tool makes sense for you on both the invoicing as well as the, invoicing your suppliers as well as getting paid, and then, communicating that plan to both your customers and suppliers. And then I've listed some articles that if you wanted to read. A lot of these are written by kind of business experts for American Express. They don't really talk about American Express specifically, but it's just challenges that that business owners like you are having during this time. So I've included some articles that you could read, as well as American Express has these Summit for Successes. I don't know if any of you, I know that many of you are American Express business card clients, so you're probably getting notifications about the different content that we're delivering. This is not just for an American Express card holder. Anyone can go to these events. So I've included the next one on October 20th. If anybody wanted to attend, and Christina, we can even put that out to the regular membership. Again, it's not about American Express. It's about connecting with other business owners, industry experts about how they're faring through the crisis. So with that, we will open it up for any Q&A.
I wasn't quite sure about the automation part. I mean, I understand like the current process with the approvals and the routing and all that stuff, but I guess is the idea with the automation as far as like accounts payable that the bills come into like a central dashboard? Is that, I must have missed that part.
Yes, And I wasn't going to talk about I was trying to, as you can imagine, I'm trying to stay really neutral. I don't want this to be an American Express. These are, obviously I have my experience in what we do. So I will tell you that, yes, we do have a central dashboard, and many of these actually work within QuickBooks. So Eric, I know that you use QuickBooks, correct?
Yes.
And Owen, do you use QuickBooks? Okay, John?
Yeah, we do.
And Dennis, you as well?
Yeah, I use QuickBooks.
Yeah. So with QuickBooks, they're one of the companies that partners with QuickBooks is called Bill.com. They've been around forever, since like 2006. And so there is an integration with QuickBooks for Bill.com. We have two other partners that we work with, but you don't need to go through American Express to work with these people. The only difference is American Express covers the cost if you're an American Express card holder, business card client. We cover it's basically sponsored by American Express. But you could access any of these on your own. So Mineral Tree, Bill.com, there are various providers of this, and if you were just to Google it, you'd probably find a whole bunch more. If anybody wanted to see, I can send out a Bill.com demo, or if anybody wanted to sit through a demo of any of the softwares that we have experience with. Whether you're an American Express card holder or not, it's going to work the same regardless of card type. Any of you having trouble getting paid by suppliers? Is the accounts receivable part more interesting to you than the payable?
One thing I want to talk to you about at some point is how to get more of those. I know that there's tips and tricks, and I don't know if you're allowed to share all of those, but yeah, I maxed out on the 3 times for my category a while ago.
Absolutely. And another thing, so Owen, remind me what your business is.
Business is called Busterbug.
That's right. So do you have a lot of people out in the field making purchases, or are most of all of your purchases centralized?
Yeah, it's all centralized. Our biggest problem is there's nothing you can do. It's just we have most of our recurring customers pay with a credit card, but it's consumers and it's such a small amount. Just the cards come in declined, expired. It's just a bit of a tiresome thing having to get the new credit card information from them. I don't think there's any way around that.
And you're using that. What software are you using for that? Do you know who your provider is?
It's just an industry specific. Yeah, it's an industry specific one to the software. So we're tied in. We don't have to use it, but it just takes away a lot of the legwork. So when someone makes a payment, the software then recognizes that the card went through, and it deducts that amount from their billing. So even though we pay a slightly higher percentage, it reduces having the need for someone in a department to run it.
Right. So,
but the downside is,
that would be a question for them. Yeah, and I would ask them about having the ability to because you just have people that are on auto bill, right? And you're auto billing for service typically.
Yeah. We just every week we'll run the card, and everyone pays like on the 2nd or 3rd or 4th Friday. Nice and simple, and just. I don't think there's any way around it. It's very streamlined. It's really good. Other than, every week you've just got X amount of people you got to reach out to update their credit card, whether it was fraudulent and they had to cancel it, or it expired. And then you get some people that are just, don't want the service anymore. It's just
right.
Digging through it all. It's a bit time consuming. But still better than getting checks in the mail all the time.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And then, John, do you have people that are out making purchases in the field a lot, or most of your stuff is centralized?
Yeah, we do a little bit. We have like 5 vendors that we're purchasing from, but what we've been doing is using the Amex card and just trying to rack up as much points as we can.
What do points get?
What's that?
I can talk about that.
What are points? As it old said, points get prizes.
Yeah, points get prizes. So travel is the biggest bang for your buck. And Christina, I would offer this as more of a, if anybody wanted to attend. I am happy to do a membership reward like point optimization call that we could even put out to the membership, where I could do a WebEx and show you how to get the most out of your points. A lot of times people are just lazy redeemers, and if you're a lazy redeemer, don't take any offense. You just go to American Express and you say pay with points, and when people are doing that for Amazon, you're getting 60 basis points. It's a terrible redemption. But if you're saying pay for points when you're booking travel on the American Express site, you're limited to 1% in value. So I spend a lot of time showing my clients how to transfer their points out of American Express into a different currency where you get more points, you get more value. Like Hilton is 2-to-1 versus 1-to-1 on Amex. So transferring points to Hilton and booking your room through Hilton. The same with Delta and all the other different transfer partners. But the biggest bang for your buck by far is travel, so airfare, hotel. And then the third option, we have a relationship with Charles Schwab, and you can transfer your membership reward points to a Charles Schwab account at 1.25%. And so that is getting quite a bit of traction with folks. So
what does that mean? That's cash?
It's cash.
Nice.
Yeah, so, 1 million points would be, $12,500 into a Schwab account. So the initial investment is not considered, because they're points, and I can provide, all kinds of articles. We don't know anything more than what we read, out in the, that's put out by different, accounting firms. But points are typically considered, they're considered to be a post-purchase rebate. I actually got that from an EO member who went and tracked it all down to tell me that points aren't reportable. I'm not allowed to give tax advice, and I always tell people they really should talk with their tax professional. But because the points, if points are considered to be non-taxable, that initial investment into Schwab wouldn't trigger anything. But anything anything that would earn, earnings on that investment obviously could trigger, would trigger some type of tax, benefit. But it's pretty easy to use your points in travel and get the biggest bang for your buck. The only reason I was asking about the whole point of sale kind of ad hoc stuff that may occur is that there are, we have systems that will generate card numbers on the spot. So if you had somebody that was at Home Depot, they were out in the field and they needed to buy something, they could, key in, they could go into an app and say, accounting, I need this, it's this much, through like a chat feature, and then it spits a card number back to them to be keyed in at point of sale. Prevents you from having to give, cards to every single, employee that may need one, just because of the risk, obviously, that may come with that. So that's if there's any interest there, that's something that we could help with. And I don't know other companies that are doing that. I'm sure they are, but we certainly have the ability to do it. Any other questions? Okay, well, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully this was helpful. And we'll send this deck out. It's got my contact information on it. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to have a one-off with anyone always.
Cool. Thanks, Regina.
Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.